In November 1937, at the request of hospital leaders, 24 women representing many Pomona organizations agreed to attend a meeting, and so began the Women's Auxiliary of Pomona Valley Hospital.
First of all, I'd like to congratulate the Auxiliary on their 75th anniversary. That's pretty remarkable, and all the work they do for the hospital is so important, and I don't know that any of us really appreciate how much they do. And it's very interesting, having been a volunteer for all these years and then coming on the board of directors. You see it from a different angle, you see it from a different side, and I think the board of directors appreciates more what the volunteers do than the volunteers realize. They talk about it often, how much they do and how you see them all over with a smile on their face. And I just hope the volunteers realize how much they're appreciated. I read someplace that the actual figure is something like over $2.5 million they save the hospital. When you think about that, that's enormous. We could never make that up and do what we do without the help of the volunteers.
The Auxiliary's threefold mission: to further the best interests of Pomona Valley Hospital, to raise funds, and to provide volunteer service are to this day the foundation of what has made this extraordinary volunteer organization a success for 75 years.
I've become very interested in the history of the Auxiliary, and it was fascinating to read and find out really what was going on. There were needs that were required in the hospital, and the volunteers really wanted to fulfill these needs, but they were unable to. And one of the problems was there just wasn't the funds available. So they got together and they formed the Women's Auxiliary of Pomona Valley Community Hospital.
Led by Marie Endicott, the Auxiliary continued to grow.
They had a men's organization, and so they felt that there was a place for the women to have an auxiliary. Marie Endicott was my husband's sister. She was the first president. The auxiliary was wonderful. It gave us an opportunity to share, which is very gratifying. Know that we're assisting our hospital, and I was just fortunate in those days to be active.
They soon hosted the hospital's first maternity tea, started the Sick Baby Fund, and were volunteering to sow and provide fresh canned produce. In fact, your dues could be paid in produce as well as money.
I became a volunteer when my mum was volunteering here at the hospital. And one day she came home and said, "I've got to go to England and I need a volunteer at the hospital." Well, I didn't know you had to belong to the auxiliary. So I said, "Oh, I'll do it for you, Mum." Well, here we are 18 years later. I ended up joining the auxiliary to fill in at the CCU desk.
During World War II, the Auxiliary suspends its fundraising activities to devote its efforts to aiding the hospital in meeting ever-increasing war demands. The community is asked to bring extra fruit from their victory gardens, and sewing time, usually spent making tray cloths and curtains, is now dedicated to sewing surgical dressings. In 1946, the Auxiliary is able to resume its fundraising efforts throughout the community, once again hosting the Silver Tea and May Breakfast. The first hospital gift shop completely run by the Auxiliary opens in 1949.
The Tender Touch gift shop is actually owned by the Auxiliary of Pomona Valley Hospital, not by the hospital itself. And all the proceeds go to our Sick Baby Hospital Assistance Fund. As chairman, I'm also on the board of the Auxiliary, and I get to hear firsthand all the requests for the use of those funds. And our most current request is for a caravan that helps provide transportation for new moms who have had to leave their babies in ICU and they live out of the area and they have no way to come and visit, and that's such an important thing for moms to be able to bond with their children.
The auxiliary's new focus is to raise funds for a pediatric wing.
When I first started, I was volunteering in the adult intensive care unit, but then 10 years later, the openings were there for the NICU volunteers, working with the babies, the preemies and the sick babies, and I put in my application and I was selected, and I've been doing that for 21 years now. The auxiliary has donated a lot of equipment to help the babies. They donated toys for the babies to, as they get older, to play with. They have knitted caps for the babies because they lose a lot of heat through the head. Oh my gosh, there's just so many things. I could go on and on for a long time with this.
To promote the project, the auxiliary brings the circus to Pomona and plans and prepares for the first Holiday Homes tour. The first Pink Lady smock is introduced in 1957, and the new gift shop opens in the hospital lobby in 1959. The need for more volunteer services grows as the hospital and its services expand.
And you can run into some kind of funny situations. I went into one room and there was this lady in there. She was well into her 90s, and as I gave her the newspaper, she says, "Listen, can you do something for me? Can you move that on the other end of the wall?" And I said, "Okay," and I moved over and I was pointing to various things and saying, "Okay, is this what you mean?" "No, not that." "How about this?" "No." "I have television?" "No, it's not that." Pretty soon she was so frustrated with me, she says, "Listen, what is it you do here?" And I said, "Well, I deliver newspapers." She says, "Well, I think you ought to find another job."
The first director of volunteer services is hired by the hospital to coordinate these efforts. The information desk, mail service, flower cart, dismissals, and recovery room services are created and maintained by auxiliary volunteers. In 1963, auxilians step on stage as the stars of the High Fever Follies, a two-night benefit at the Fox Theater. The highlight of the decade came in 1964 with the launching of the Junior Volunteer Program for high school students under the leadership of Mrs. Leona Rowe and Mrs. Carolyn Rapp.
My mother was a volunteer here at the hospital when I was in grammar school, and I know she always enjoyed coming to the hospital. And you could see the gratification. As a child, you can see this when your parents are happy and they enjoy going someplace and things like that. So I kind of thought, well, I'd like to do that too someday. But fortunately, one day she came home and she said, "Oh, guess what? They're going to have a candy striper program." And I got all excited because I had wanted to be a nurse since I was 13. So I thought, what a wonderful experience to be able to go and be a junior volunteer or a candy striper, mix with patients, get the feel for the profession I was going to hope to follow.
Candy stripers, as well as their male counterparts, handy stripers, are welcomed into the program.
The junior volunteers and the board are able to serve Pomona Hospital's auxiliary by helping to fundraise for the Sick Baby Fund. And basically what happens is we hold fundraisers, we attend most of the major events that the auxiliary creates, and what it's shown me is that all of these volunteers want to give back to their community, and all of them have something special. And as volunteers, we all have something special that we can contribute, even if it might be something small.
As the hospital continues to expand its services, so does the auxiliary. At this time, volunteers are serving in the emergency room, magazine delivery, the new blood donor center, critical care desk, medical library, and surgery waiting room.
My basic place is over at the Cancer Care Center, and I'm the librarian there, the patient community library that's for everybody. And I truly enjoy that job. And sometimes a stranger will come in and you just feel, by the time they've been there for a while and we've been chatting back and forth, you feel like you've known them. They come up and give you a hug, and that's the kind of thing that's where you know you've gotten through to somebody.
The biggest change to auxiliary was about to occur, and it came in the form of male auxilians, causing an official name change from the Women's Auxiliary to the Auxiliary of Pomona Valley Community Hospital.
As auxiliary president, it was a new experience for me, and I really learned a lot. I learned the in and outs about the hospital, and about the hospital, the board, stuff like that. And to me, it was quite a growing experience. I really enjoyed that. I love to volunteer. The people here at the hospital are fabulous. The auxiliary is a very vital branch of the hospital because we are able to help out in different events, fundraisers, and we work as a team together, and we can be able to help the community and the hospital and be able to move ahead.
In 1987, the first male auxiliary president was elected.
I was here in 1984 when we dropped the name Women's from Women's Auxiliary and immediately brought in a young man named Bill Case, whose father was a doctor here for many years. He was brought up in the halls of this hospital, and he became president. I was head of the nominating committee that year. He became president in 1987.
The Buckle Every Little Tot program began providing infant car seats to families in need. And for the first time, patients were able to vote on Election Day with the aid of auxiliary volunteers.
One of the things the auxiliary does is they provide funds for children's services, which is purchasing toys for the pediatrics. And we take care of the mothers on Mother's Day. We bring them flowers.
Perhaps the auxiliary's boldest action came in this decade, making a $1 million pledge to assist with the opening of the newly planned Cancer Care Center.
The oncology volunteers were started because the doctors and the nurses all wanted their patients in one spot. The nurses weren't quite sure that we were necessary, but within a year we proved that we were necessary, and the head nurse was going to a convention and she gave a speech on oncology volunteers, and it became a wonderful program.
The auxiliary's $1 million pledge for the Cancer Care Center was completed, the volunteer chaplain program created, and volunteer clowns were introduced to the patients and staff. The college volunteer program was established, placing college students interested in entering the medical field into specifically designated clinical departments.
The value, in my opinion, whether you want to be in medicine or not, is just giving your time to people in need, and just the interactions with all the faculty and staff and the patients, and it gives you more compassion, empathy towards others, and it kind of opens up your eyes in general. Since the family medicine residency program began at that time, I wanted to come back and explore that and see how it was to work with the physicians, the residents, and in that way, with doing that, that actually solidified, my interest in family medicine.
The auxiliary kind of was promoting this whole servicing and helping the hospital, also within the community. And then also for the volunteers, in terms of giving them scholarships for college. I was very excited because that helped off initially for college in terms of books. I was doing pre-med, so that helped out a great deal. Nadia, my sister, received it, my brother as well. So he too had it. All three of us had our interest in medicine, so we were all very excited when we got the scholarships.
The auxiliary dedicated its resources to new projects, raised funds for the hospital to purchase the first stereotactic breast biopsy table as well, and held the first drive-through flu clinic in the nation. The auxiliary scholarship program continued to grow. Nearly $500,000 in scholarships has been given to student volunteers to help them pursue their dreams of entering the medical field. The Safe Surrender site was built with a donation from the auxiliary, as well as the doctor's quiet room for family consultations. Other purchases included giraffe beds and twin cribettes for the NICU, as well as a new security canine. New services like the volunteer shuttle, menu team, and hospitality cart were also started. And in 2009, the auxiliary once again made a $1 million pledge to assist with the hospital's future expansion plans.
When our volunteers do the valuable work that we get to do, we actually improve patient care, in my opinion. When we're doing things like getting pillows and blankets and ice chips and some of the things that our patients need to be more comfortable, it frees up the staff to really be able to focus in on the medical care. The support for the volunteer program starts from the very top of the hospital administration. Our CEO and president, Rich Yoakum, in just about every presentation I've ever heard him make, speaks of the value of volunteers to the hospital and how we play such an important role in providing quality care to our patients.
The dedication and commitment of the auxiliary of Pomona Valley Hospital Medical Center has contributed to the success of the hospital for 75 years and will continue to serve and support this hospital and community well into the future.